In this video, I want to talk about the dangers of jumping back in too quickly when you're thinking about what happens next. Welcome to the What Happens Next channel. Welcome to the What Happens Next channel, the channel designed to explore the challenges we face and the opportunities we've got when we're thinking about what happens next in our lives, particularly when we're looking at the next chapter beyond 50 to 60 and beyond. My name's Chris. I'm lucky enough to work with many people who are thinking about that next chapter in my role as a chartered financial planner. I'm really lucky because people often come to me to work out whether they've got enough to make positive change in their life. Now that positive change for you is going to be different for everybody that I see, because we've all got our own hope streams, aspirations, goals and ambitions when we're thinking about what happens next. But what I've also realised is it's about more than the money. Having that money question answered is really important. Knowing we've got enough is really important. And certainly our job as chartered financial planners is to help people work that out. But that doesn't give you the full puzzle. It's one piece of the puzzle, but it doesn't give you the full piece of the puzzle. What I'm going to do is tell you a story about a meeting that I had last week. I had an email at the start of the week from one of my clients who said, can I pop in and have a chat? Because I want to be really sure that what I'm doing next is the right thing. This particular client, when he's first started working with us, had been with his current employer for about 20 years. So he'd been there for a long time. He'd had a really good job and a really good career in London-based corporate institutions, but he decided that he wanted to be really clear on what was next for him. That job came to an end, and within about 6 weeks, he'd got another job. And then, after about 3 months, he decided that job wasn't for him. After that, he decided to take another job. And the meeting we had last week was effectively him telling us that he wanted to stop that too. Now, we talked about his financial plan, and we were pretty confident that he was still going to be all right. And he wanted that clarification to make sure that when he went in, the following day, he could be confident enough to stop that job. Now, weirdly, we'd told him before because the plan hadn't fundamentally changed. But one thing I said to him is, well, you keep on taking jobs, you keep on taking these full-time jobs, why don't you try some low-cost experimentation? Now, this particular client had been employed in full-time jobs his entire life. That's what he knew. But what I explained to him is, actually, if he knows he's never going to run out of money again, that's an important point, he can take his time experimenting with what work looks like for him in his life. He could consult. He could do work for charity. He could do some Ned roles, but ultimately he could dictate how and when he spent his time with the people he wanted to work with, because he had that freedom of choice. What he thought he had to do, because that's what he'd done forever, is just go back full time. And ultimately it wasn't making him happy, because what he found is that the commute that he was doing, the 9 to 5 office role that he'd gone into and all of that sort of stuff wasn't the thing that he wanted to do now. It was interesting because when I asked him what was the most important thing for him, it was autonomy. And he'd kept on creating these opportunities to go back into full-time roles without just exploring some of the other options. Now, I've mentioned a couple of them, but the options are unlimited. You could set up your own company. You could consult as a self-employed individual. You can work as somebody who's employed 1 day, 2 days, 3 days a week. The options out there, using your skills and expertise that you've built over decades, are there. But I think there's a tendency for us to psychologically go back to what we used to. And I think that was the challenge for this particular individual. The thing that I'd encourage you to do today is not to do that. To think about the future as in your control. Now, what that might mean is you might want to come and have a conversation with somebody like me who's not only going to help you work out whether you've got enough money to make sure that you can make those choices, but also think about some of the other options you've got. But also I'd counsel you to take the time. This particular client had literally had 3 weeks from the end of his last job before starting his new one. Didn't like that, had 3 weeks between that one and the most recent one. And I said to him, experiment with some time off. Experiment with some thinking time. Experiment with some part-time work while you're working your way and navigating your way through this. Change doesn't happen immediately, and what I'd counsel you to do is make sure that when you're thinking about these changes, you take your time. Hopefully that's useful. Have a lovely day, and we'll see you next time on the What Happens Next channel.